introduce it and then I can take over?
No, it says it was deleted off Facebook.
It's showing live now.
It says that it's deleted though. Hold on. Okay.
Mhm.
I don't know why it's saying that it's deleted. So, all right. I'll let you go ahead and start here. I
Yeah,
guess we are live some places, just
we
not
are
everywhere.
live somewhere. We're definitely
Okay.
live. So
All right.
okay. I will welcome everyone, Sharnael. Hi everyone. Thanks for tuning in and joining us. This is the show, The Truth Matters. I'm Craig Walker. I'm in the north of England. I'm with my good friend that side, Dr. Sharnael. You okay? You've had a bit of trouble before logging on, some tech issues and things.
Very much tech issues going on. So yes, but happy. Hopefully, this will keep its internet connection through the show. I'm just everybody send good vibes.
Yeah, we'll be fine. And if you jump out, whatever, we'll just keep flowing. Don't worry about it, and just jump on. But I am absolutely mega excited. I've just been chatting with our guest today offline, and this is going to be one heck of a conversation. So, Dan, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.
Craig, Dr. Sharnael, pleasure to be on your show.
Thank you very much. Now, like I say, we were just talking, and I kept saying, "Oh, we should be recording this." So, I guess we'll start from where we were before. I mean, if you could give a little bit about your background and where you've come from, and we'll just take it from there, if that's okay.
All right. Let's see. 20 years ago, I joined 20 witnesses that went before the National Press Club in Washington, D.C. This was one of the largest events in the history of the National Press Club. Myself being an ex-ABC newsman, 22 cameras in the back row. What was being disclosed? My God. I had a minor testimony when I was in the Navy. I was in Naval Communications with a high-level top secret security clearance. And getting reports from ships, reporting discs that were 70 feet in diameter coming off port bow, that shooting straight up into space. Secret classified reports going to Chief of Naval Operations. My testimony was just a minor supplement compared to the other witnesses that were describing 57 different extraterrestrial species already categorized, that we've had faster than light craft built back in the 1950s, that there's bases on the other side of the moon, the NASA's airbrushing out the UFOs before releasing to the public. The astronauts are sworn to secrecy. What happened when they went to the moon back in 1969, nuclear silos being shut down, presidents, CIA directors being denied access illegally, that we've had 0-point energy that could alleviate the need for nuclear oil and coal, on and on. There's just so many explosive testimonies. And I was, looking at these 22 cameras in the back row and looking at the place was packed with reporters asking questions. And I was thinking, my God, I'm participating in an event that's going to be a world-changing event. How could any of this information get out into the mainstream and not have a whole lot of people asking a whole lot of questions, So I started to get an education on what the media is actually about. When we saw what happened with CNN and the rest of the media, CBS wanted to do a one-on-one interview with me. And I told them I saw what CNN did. What they were able to do, the intelligence community calls it a limited hangout, where if they want to keep the public from becoming aware of something, what they do is they tell part of the story that's true, but they omit all the explosive information that would, get out there that they don't want to get out there.
Yeah.
And so what they made it sound like is we wanted to have a congressional hearing on simply the reality of UFOs. And so when CBS interviewed me one-on-one, I said, I'm not going to do this interview unless I can say we have the scientists that can prove, put it on the table, show it working, 0-point energy device.
Mm.
And they said, absolutely, we'll let you say that. And afterward, the producers, I never had this happen before. The higher executives, which are connected to the intelligence community, made me cut that part out. And so to cut out a piece of information that would alleviate the need for nuclear oil and coal on the planet, obviously the intelligence communities are not looking in the best interest of everybody on this planet.
Absolutely.
And so afterward, this was 20 years ago. This was May 9th, 2001. I've been, ever since 1969, it got my curiosity, getting these secret classified reports of extraterrestrial, in an official naval communications. And I've researched over the decades. And then I really started the research starting, because I didn't even know what Operation Mockingbird was back in 2001.
Yeah.
So, today I just feel like it's important that the public know that we've been deceived, that there's been an infiltration, and that our media is controlled at the highest level centrally in order to move forward on an agenda that is against the people of the world. And so that's a little bit about me.
There's so many questions there. I mean, first thing that came to my mind was, they're really, really pushing this climate change narrative, and it's the same people that have hidden this information of free energy, and now all of a sudden, when it serves the agenda, they're now trying to do away with fossil fuels. How would you comment on that at all? Is that something that you're sort of privy to, in that, we talk about this deep state cabal, and they're now pushing this climate change narrative, aren't they? And I'm all for being greener, but why?
Me too.
Why would you have hidden the technologies that could have solved the problem? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I live off the grid on the mountains, fairly self-sufficient. So yeah, I'm all totally into green energy. In fact, I'm into replacing all these dangerous nuclear power plants, with clean energy, taking down the whole grid, starting out mass production of these 0-point energy devices, so every home and business can have a little box that gives you all the multiple kilowatts you need to run everything. In fact, you don't even need to charge your electric vehicle. You just have one of these in your vehicle. And everything could be. The thing is that the technology that we have, as I mentioned to you previously, Craig, I saw what the Bush administration did by denying the scientists that we had that could prove the 0-point energy.
Yeah.
And so I volunteered for 10 years. I've met with scientists and inventors around the planet that claim to have over unity technology. And it was a horror story. I gave up in the year 2014 doing that, because some were suicided, many murdered, national security orders to most of them. There's a kind of secret system within the patent office called sensitive application warning system. Anybody that has a anti-gravity, free energy, anything along that line, they automatically get issued what's called the national security order, which states that your invention has been deemed to be a detriment to the national security of the United States. Therefore, you cannot share it with anybody, and anybody you've shared it with, we need to have their names and everything. So ever since the Invention Secrecy Act of 1951, our planet has been technologically hijacked and retarded. I mean, think about
they're
it.
doing the same thing in the medical world with everything, with the technology that's available. They killed off Royal Rife and anyone who's created support to. I mean, cancer has been resolved easily
Yeah.
50 to 1,000 times, 50 that I know of, but probably billions that I don't know of. And they just do not want the technology because they want the population control, which is also another program that's going on, with the kids, TikTok and everything. Is like, there's too many people, so like even young kids are not wanting to have babies, or to get fixed, to not be a part of the problem, so this tech thing is a big issue.
It is a big issue. Yeah.
Well, but just think of it. Release this technology, you'd be able to populate. There's a whole lot of area on this planet that can be, how do you say, homesteaded. That could be in remote areas. You could have, water, power, everything that you need. And in fact, if with being able to travel off planet, the galaxy is full of planets. So if we had to take people off to other planets, we could do that. So that the overpopulation thing, nothing makes sense in this world unless you understand that there is indeed a global elite that has been the ones that funded, the Nazis back in World War II. And they essentially want to they want to keep all this advanced technology essentially for themselves, and they want to reduce the population and enslave that small in their interest. And then when you plug that into the formula, all of a sudden everything makes perfect sense in the world. Everything that it seems like this is crazy, this doesn't make any sense. If you plug that in to the formula, all of a sudden the world makes perfect sense what's going on. But when they control the media, and this is, as I said, I was an ex-ABC newsman, so it took kind of an interest in how the media is going to deal with this. And how they did it was generational indoctrination.
Yeah.
Because when you're a little kid, your mom and dad watched the news and they didn't have any reason to question. And when you grew into adulthood, you kind of took that assumption, and after generation after generation, you tend to believe what the news anchor person is saying. And so, I guess they have a name for those. They call it the normies, that watch MSNBC and read New York Times and all this, that and they're all centrally controlled. They don't understand that at the end of World War II, the Nazis fully escaped, and they rewrote the history of what happened in World War II by the Rockefeller Foundation in 1946. And 1950, they started Operation Mockingbird with about 400 journalists that the CIA was paying them to put out information. And that we had first contact back in February 1954 with the Galactic Federation, which Eisenhower wanted to accept what they were offering, but MJ-12 behind their back entered into agreement with a regressive group of extraterrestrials. And so, and he was planning on having a radio and television disclosure in May of 1954. But instead, what happened is they started up the Bilderberg meetings, which control, along with the Council of Foreign Relations and Trilateral, the 6 corporations that control everything that you see and hear. And so they created, they had this plan before the end of World War II called, in German, it's Welt, if I don't screw it up, let's see. Weltanschauungskrieg means worldview warfare. They plan to infiltrate in and create a matrix of perception by controlling education, media, going into high positions. They put people in the pharmaceutical corporations all over the place. And so they created this perception that generations were indoctrinated into in order to hide these operations. Well, they had their secret space program. They had anti-gravity, the Germans, back in 1934.
Yep.
We didn't have it until October of 1954. And, Elon Musk with rockets and stuff, it was like, we've got this Truman Show kind of thing going on. And people are there's this global awakening. People are starting to catch on the glitches of this reality that we've been born into.
Yeah.
I'm of an older generation, so I got see Walter Cronkite and all the the how it shifted, and our parents didn't have a clue about this stuff,
No. I mean, how far we've come, even just in my lifetime. I'd say since sort of 9/11 that things have really hotted up, sort of politically and globally. It's been very obvious.
All the glitches in that one, yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, oh yeah. So the picture behind you, to those that may not know, is you were part of an attempt at disclosure.
Yeah.
It's Dr. Greer there.
Okay. There's 20 of us.
Yep.
That each stated we're willing to testify under oath, that's penalty of perjury, and breaking national security oaths. Now, we were 20 that were willing to go before the cameras of the mainstream media.
Mm-hmm.
We were backed by over 500 military intelligence witnesses. But, it doesn't matter if you have 10,000 military intelligence. If you control the media, it doesn't matter.
And in a sense, disclosure has happened by you guys, but it was hush hush, shut down. You tried to tell us, and it was just like you say. Was it Bush Senior who was head of the CIA when you did that, or was he president? Sorry, was at that time.
That was Bush Jr. at that in 2001. In fact, one of the witnesses talked about Bush Senior denying. President Carter had a UFO report he actually filed, and he made it his campaign promise to release the UFO files. And Attorney Daniel Sheehan, one of the 20 witnesses, testified that he was denied access. Sitting president was denied access to the UFO files by Bush Senior. And it goes back to essentially we lost control during the Eisenhower administration, where somewhat of a surrender an agreement had to be made. And ever since Eisenhower, Kennedy, 10 days before he was assassinated, he tried to get the UFO files. Allen Dulles set up an assassination directive. He was MJ1. And then after that, let's see, then it was Carter, and then Bill Clinton. He wanted to find out about the UFO files.
Yeah.
And the little lady who was the famed White House correspondent, Sarah McClendon, who sponsored this event in 2001, she was with him and asking him, why aren't you disclosing this? And he said to her, quote, "Sarah, there's a secret government in the government, and I don't control it." And he had his CIA director, James Woolsey, look into it. This is 1993. The CIA director is denied access. He exhausted his military intelligence community channels and brought in a civilian, Dr. Stephen Greer, who was he was a director for the Center for the Study of Extraterrestrial Intelligence. So they brought in a civilian, and he brought in a huge stack of papers establishing the reality. And he says, "I know the subject's real. I'm trying to figure out why the hell I can't gain access to it." And so Dr. Greer met with military advisors back then, and he suggested started collecting witnesses, and that's how all these hundreds of witnesses. I was the 100th videotaped witness of all these things, and then it was interesting in 1993. In my researching of this subject, the first time Robert Lazar, the S4 scientist, went public, there was a small group of researchers meeting outside of Area 51 in kind of a tent setup. And Bob Lazar, no video recording was allowed whatsoever, right? But I was in the front row, and I had my camcorder going and recorded the full 2 hours the webmatrix.net 1993 timeline. You can watch it. He's been consistent, his testimony over the decades. But what this event created was the base, Nellis Air Force Base, the Area 51. They they went into complete lockdown, and a classified NRO advisory document, National Reconnaissance Office, that listed these in the distribution list, unacknowledged special access projects such as Cosmic Ops, Magi Ops. These operations were reverse engineering extraterrestrial technologies. Somehow Dr. Greer was able to acquire this classified document. And in 1997, he went with astronaut Edgar Mitchell and Commander Will Miller to the Pentagon to meet with the head of intelligence for the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Vice Admiral Thomas Wilson. The admiral, in his constitutional authority, should have had access, if anybody, being the head of intelligence, for the Joint Chiefs. He was denied access. He was not only denied access, but he was threatened. He was told to back off, and he would see a loss in rank and early retirement if he looked into it any further. And so he was mad as hell. And he told Dr. Greer, if you can get your people willing to testify under oath, you have my permission to go before the mainstream media with this. This group is, quote, illegal. And so that's what brought about this 2001 event. And that's a little bit of history on that.
When we were talking offline, Dan, you gave me a very brief description of a personal experience that you'd had. Are you prepared to go into that with the extraterrestrial and what you told me? Is that okay?
Oh yeah, that's more of the metaphysical area,
We like metaphysical here.
Yeah, they got me into researching crystals and everything.
Yeah.
Well, I had an exchange with a being that, with the Kundalini opening back in 1977, that the being projected a sphere in space. And as I didn't know anything about what platonic solids, sacred geometry, any of this stuff. And it was incredible loving energy from the being, but incredible intensity of like thousands of volts going through my hands and my feet, as though they had to lift my level up in order to convey something. And so as I watched, it looked like a star tetrahedron formed in the sphere, then another, icosahedron, dodecahedron, it's going into one geometry into another and went into infinity, and then it turned back into a sphere. And I don't know if this was purely, as you would say, a metaphor of teaching, or if it was actually science that was based on it's conveying to me, but it left a burning desire. And what I got from the being was that each of us are in actuality, again, I don't know if this is a metaphor or actually science, a total sphere which contains all the harmonics of all the geometries. And at any particular point in our evolution, we're oscillating on a particular frequency geometry. Yeah, exactly.
Like the star
like the Merkaba star tetrahedron. Yeah, that was
I had the first encounter, some similar encounter. But yeah, interesting. The same thing with the feeling of. Can you guys hear me? Okay.
It's quiet, but we can hear you.
Same thing with the feeling in my body and just the overpowering love and just feeling like it was coming from all sides and through me, of just a complete overwhelmed feeling of like love and energy. But yeah, go ahead. But anyway.
Love and energy, yeah. So that's it. So what was conveying was that at any particular point in our evolution, that we can, it's like we can be conscious of the lower harmonics of that but not of the higher. But through love, we are able to move from one frequency geometry up to the next higher in our path of evolution. And let's see, was there more to that? It seems kind of simple, huh?
Simple. Yeah. I mean, you spoke about how it gave you a sort of an understanding or a desire to understand crystals more. How did that come into it?
Yeah, well, after the experience, I started to, I mean, it's 1977, so there wasn't a whole lot of metaphysical books on that subject, but everyone that was out there, I grabbed my hands on it, and I was like hungry to understand. And I was looking at these books, I mean, my God, that's it. Yeah, the one fitting into the other, and the geometry, and my God, as I start to research, I start to find that, oh my God, the planet and all the sun and all the planets all have this star tetrahedron at the 19.47 degree where the points are, like the sunspots, where the pyramid is, the great red spot on Jupiter. All the planetary spheres have this geometry. Even the orbits have this platonic sun. And I started to find our DNA has these geometries within it, and I've started to find out that it was interesting in 2001, after the congressional hearing was denied. I met with a group of scientists at a private home in San Francisco. And there was a lot of amazing scientists there. Mark Cummings was one of them who's disappeared, that had he's a physicist out of Berkeley, was able to get a crystal that was able to produce a huge amount of power, and it was glowing and levitating. And the SWAT team came in and completely cleaned his laboratory out. Anyway, all these different scientists had, this was my beginning journey on trying to, see what's out there with science that's being suppressed. Anyway, one of the scientists there name was Nassim Haramein. He's a Swiss Swiss theoretical physicist, rather. And he was on his laptop, and he was sharing with me this energy device that had, using geometry, was powering this light bulb. And it kind of made me want to share my experience I had back in 1977. So I shared with him the geometry of that, and he said, yes, that's it. That's the structure of the matrix. And as I researched his work later, with the 64 tetrahedron grid, and as I found out there was more and more. But anyway, I'm jumping ahead of time. Back into the early 1980s, I drove in the middle of a storm from San Diego to San Jose to meet with Dr. Marcel Vogel, who was still working with IBM. And he had an unusual experience with plant communication. He was he had to give this course of creativity for 30 engineers. He was a creative genius. I mean, he had hundreds of patents, and he had created the magnetic coding for hard drives, the red and blue phosphors for color television, liquid crystals. I mean, the guy was an incredible genius. So he was giving this course, and he read this article about Cleve Baxter plant communication. Yes. And he thought, oh, this would be good for the engineers. And at first he crumpled it up and threw it in the trash, and he thought, this is garbage. But he said, no, I'm going to hook it up. So he hooked his script chart recorder up to a split leaf philodendron. He burned the plant leaf, and this chart went. And as soon as the thought formed in his mind to do it again, the chart went. Yep. He said that squiggle changed his life. He was the kind of mind that once there got a question in his mind, he wouldn't let up. When he was 13 years old, he set up a laboratory in his father's backyard to study how fireflies glowed. This is the kind of mind he was. And so anyway, make a long story short, because this gets into a lot of detail. But anyway, he was doing a lecture at a Science Mind church, and a lady gave him a crystal, and he thought, oh, this is woo-woo stuff. And then a colleague of him at IBM had a back injury. And see, when he was working with the plants, he found that he was studying pranayama yoga of breathing. And he found that when he pulsed his breath, he got a much bigger reaction. In fact, he went from the laboratory from 7 miles away with his colleague and psychically tuned into the plant and could make it squiggle. And then he went all the way on the other side of the planet to Prague, Czechoslovakia, and tuned into the plant, and he could make it squiggle. So, the distance doesn't matter. And so...
Hey, Dan. I've done some similar studies. Can you guys hear me? I hope you can hear me. People
can hear you.
You're kind of weak, but yes. Forgive my bad hearing. I'll try to catch it all.
Same thing with the blood of a plant. We've done some tests on it, and so basically essential oils, depending on if you're using a real essential oil, it can go through TSA and it'll die. You could see that it's dead. And within 4 hours, it'll resurrect itself. It comes back to life. But we've had the same quantum testing where even the blood of a plant, which is alive, so it's like the DNA of a plant versus our DNA. There's something in the essential oils that's alive. But Baxter is a hero of mine. I'm glad you brought that up. But keep going. Awesome.
So anyway, he got into crystals, and he had this dream about doing it in a dipyramidal configuration. Something. Like, grab one of these things like this,
Oh yeah.
Okay. So anyway, we were working with 24 medical doctors in the San Francisco Bay Area and having incredible success. I drove up in the middle of the storm, knocked on his door, the first time I ever met him, and he turned off all the lights and played classical music for about a half an hour. And I was sitting on the couch with this one of the medical doctors he was working with, and a knock came on the door, and this woman with her daughter had this tumor that was protruding about a half inch or something on her ankle. And I watched with this doctor, and he did the procedure with the crystal and the breath and dematerialized it in front of our eyes. I mean, actually gone out of the 3D physical reality, gone. That left a lasting impression on me. So I knew this.
That was my first question. Where did it go?
Yeah, it's like the crystal has a way of coupling multiple dimensions when you understand we are indeed holographic, and that we, from our soul, higher vibrational pattern forms the lower 3D physical pattern, and not vice versa. And that when you go into that higher level, where it has the blueprint of what our 3D pattern is, and you're able to, using what he did was use the technique with the breath, with the intention. Able to have incredible healing situations, with that. And so he and the first ones he made was these 4-sided ones. He made this one as a gift for me because I drove all the way to the mines in Arkansas and got a whole bunch of crystals for all the doctors, to be able to cut. I helped set up some of the laboratory equipment. It had a full-on laboratory, electron microscopes, spectrophotometers, measuring, quantifying this. It wasn't just, woo-woo stuff. We were actually quantifying this. And the first time he gave that to me, I was flying back on a plane, and there was a football player in pain holding his knee. He just had knee surgery on it, and he was in pain. And I was thinking, oh my God, well, this is, I guess, an opportunity. I introduced myself. I said, I'm not a doctor. I'm a, kind of an experimental scientist. And if you'd like, we can try some, you know. And so we did the procedure on it, and he got off the plane. He's pointing to me from his parents. And that guy, he fixed my leg, but I didn't do it. I facilitated him in healing himself.
Yes.
You know, because you know, the procedure is basically, you know, ask and you shall receive. You know, you ask and you go on a higher level, and through the breath, and be able to couple the dimensions with the crystal and work with the person in harmony with the person. And yeah, you have amazing things happen, you know, with that. You know, this is primitive stuff, you know, compared to what we're going to be doing in the future. One of the things I worked on with this camera that could move backwards and forwards into time, that could holographically project in 3D, it was made in the 1950s, called the Delaware camera. And my job was to bring the 1950s electronics up to 1980s electronics that could be able to real time see what was going on. What you do is you take a drop of blood or whatever for a witness and radionically attune to it. And there would be sound oscillators. This thing stood about 5.5 feet tall, and it would project in 3 axes a hologram in 3D that would be captured on a photographic plate. And say, for example, this woman was pregnant with a baby that was 50 miles away, and we're able to tune backwards and forwards into time. And what's interesting was Alex Collier. You're familiar with him?
Yeah, no, Alex Collier, yeah.
The Andromedist says that the Andromedists describe the medbed technology as being able to take a holographic, they call it a camera of all things, be able to take a holographic picture of you, and this picture contains temporal aspects of you going all the way back to the point of your conception. And what they do is, I mean, this is incredible advanced technology. What I worked on was primitive in comparison, but it substantiated the principles that you can tune through time in the holographic field. And what they're able to do is assemble the most optimal parts of all your body when everything was optimal, your heart, your lungs, your brain, everything, and make a new hologram and overlay that over to your existing one, and it age reverses and heals you incredibly like magic. In these medbed technologies. So this was something I worked on that was built and patented by the European Patent Office, and thousands of photos were made. I mean, it definitely worked. The camera disappeared since Marcel died. And so anyway, that was that's my more metaphysical aspects beside my disclosure.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be fair, the point I was going to make next was how these link in. You know, the kind of disclosure, the secret space program, and the technologies that they have in that program, which to us, I mean, we joke about. I say joke. Some people, you know, Star Trek and Star Wars. It's not that far removed from what's going on, is it? If I'm not mistaken.
Oh, it blew me away that, you know, I used to love when I was a kid, you know, Outer Limits and things like that. And you find out that Leslie Stevens, who was the creator of Outer Limits, his father was Admiral Leslie Stevens, connected with Admiral Rico Boda, who was working with the 29 Navy spies embedded into the Nazi secret space program. And that the Galactic Federation was working with Gene Roddenberry to give him the script in order to seed in the collective mind on Earth, you know, the concepts of warp drives, teleportation, and most importantly, you know, the prime directive. That you know, all this was to put into the imagination, you know, the power of Hollywood, of being able to put ideas and concepts into people's minds. And you know, the secret societies, they know very well that there is a collective morphogenic hive mind, and that what many people see and imagine creates.
Yes, exactly. I mean, Hollywood and entertainment. We talk a lot about that on this show, don't we, Sharnael?
Definitely.
Just how they, like you say, they influence consciousness, and some bad, obviously, but there is a lot of good out there as well. I mean, my daughter's making me watch the Marvel films, and there is so much in those films, and I'm like, they're telling us what's going on here, you know.
A lot of soft disclosure going on.
Yeah, exactly. And like you say, it's seeding their minds very gently and probably subconsciously.
But it's sad because they're thinking they're watching science fiction when the real thing.
It's real. It's true. Exactly.
You know, which is a stretch for a lot of people. You know, to imagine that there's a galactic federation, that there's ships out there that people have no idea about, and that recently we're having like these arcs activated that are across the planet, and the incredible technologies that are on board, you know, the solar warden craft. In fact, this event inspired Gary McKinnon, the UK hacker. You know him well.
Yeah, I know him. Yeah. I know.
You know, he didn't make that stuff up. You know, he saw the USS Hillenkotter. Who is Hillenkotter? He was MJ1 of the first MJ12 group and the first CIA director. And
the ones that signed us off to the negative agendas. Is that right? In Eisenhower's presidency, if I've got that right?
Oh, that was during Truman. Truman set up the first MJ12 group, and you know, Gary McKinnon discovered the solar warden program. They wanted to put the poor lad away for 70 years in prison for having a curiosity that was seeded by this event that I participated in, and they didn't want the people to know that we have advanced. I mean, the technology on board the spacecraft, and I mean, the replicators, the med beds, I mean, you name it. I mean, they understand the matrix. They understand that everything is holographic and everything can be created out of this matrix. You know, I had a show recently with my friend John Charles, is on part of the solar warden. That's interesting.
I think. I think something's going on. Carry on. Sorry, John Charles.
Yes, John Charles, my dear friend, part of the French secret space program. He was on board the Solaris, which is one of the solar warden craft, and he was talking about the replicators on board and how you can program a med bed to get 10 hours of sleep in about 8 minutes.
Wow.
That you know,
we've just got to get this technology out. I mean, you know, that's why we love doing these shows, and that's why we have them, because we need to stop looking to the mainstream media to feed us and to wait for them to confirm whether something's true or not. You know, we have people like yourself who are bravely speaking about these things and your own experiences and your own encounters, and you know, we speak to a lot of other people as well, and I think this is really grassroots, and that's where it's going to happen, I believe, from the ground up.
Yeah, that's the only reason I do these shows. And I have zero financial interest in any of this stuff. I just want to be contributing, like many thousands, millions of people, that I have a small little piece in this whole thing. And and when you start to research and look at this, you know, it's like the transition from the generational indoctrination to the truth that's been hidden. It's like one oh my god after another. Oh my god, this is real. And there's so much substantiating evidence. I started collecting. A media company wanted me to write an article on the control of mainstream media with the UFO issue, which I gladly accepted, because I was trying to figure out what the heck happened, you know, back then 20 years ago. And so the way I found to understand this subject is from the beginning of the 20th century, started plugging in all these witness testimonies and all these authenticated classified documents. And then when you start plugging them all in, they all start to indicate and point in one direction. You can't say you know anything 100% for sure, right?
Mhm.
But unless you had a personal experience, but there's indications that show that there's a very high probability that a certain reality is, such as a secret space program, is indeed going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I always refer to, was it Donald Rumsfeld, who announced on September the 10th, 2001, so many trillions of dollars are missing, and obviously the next day we all know what happened, and everybody forgot about that. So my question is where's that money gone? It has to be in these kinds of level of projects. So basically, they told us and then just wiped it. Do you think that's what
Oh,
it's
yeah,
about?
the false flag events.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was involved in combat action in Vietnam because of the Gulf of Tonkin way back then. In fact, in 2001, it was disclosed, Werner von Braun's deathbed testimony, one false flag after another that they had planned. And what was the next one they had planned? This was May of 2001. And the next one was going to be terrorists, and what happened in September of 2001.
Yeah.
And then after that, what's going to happen is rogue nations. And what happened was we had North Korea, Iran, and then the next one's asteroids. I mean, they have the technology to pull something like that off. And the final one being the extra-terrestrial false flag threat to come in.
Yeah.
And so this was revealed, but it wasn't covered by the mainstream media.
No, of course not. No. I just wanted to talk. You mentioned before about these arcs. I've heard that there's one in Ukraine, that a lot of what's going on over there has something to do with this. Do you have anything on that at all, or any?
I haven't heard about the, Jean Charles actually went with Elena down to the one in Lake Vostok in Antarctica. Supposedly there's one in, I don't have any direct firsthand knowledge of this, but there's about 9 of them, and one on the moon, and they all have these interesting like these suspended water spheres that they're actually portals. So they all link together. They all jump. You can go from one arc to the other, and they respond to DNA, which is consistent with what I've interviewed a number of these secret space program people, and you have to have some of the alien DNA in order to interact with some of this technology. So it's DNA dependent.
And would that be sort of one of the reasons why certain people are selected as abductees and used in these 20 and backs sort of scenarios, that they are carrying a certain DNA?
Your guess is as good as mine on that, but that sounds, they do seem to deal with families. Families seem to have experiences going on,
Yeah. So, so I was just saying that they're obviously obsessed with bloodlines. All the elites, they're all about these 13 bloodlines, because they know that what their genetic makeup isn't the same as maybe what they class as the common man. But I mean, another really fascinating topic that I've looked into is that some of these advanced civilizations have been implanting their DNA into people for the raising of the consciousness of humanity. I mean, I think this ties in with the space program. Personally, I mean, funnily enough, do you know Tony Rodriguez? His testimony.
Yeah, I did a show on crystals with Tony just recently, and he got himself a crystal recommended, and we did kind of an exercise. Yeah, Tony, he's a good friend.
Well, we're interviewing him for next week's show.
Oh, excellent!
So he's
such a credible being. He just radiates authenticity, and I mean his experience. Oh my God, his experience.
And the memory he's got, because obviously they take you on these 20 and backs, and then obviously they erase your memory of it and plant you back where you were. And so often these guys have an experience that will trigger a memory or something. And with Tony, it's just come flooding back, and he's written his book. Have you met people who've had these experiences and have memories or, sort of in these projects?
Well, ever since since the Draco, the Sakar Empire, helped the Nazi SS back in the 30s, then Antarctica developed their. That's why Eisenhower had to surrender. When you think about Operation High Jump and the flyover in '52 and everything, they basically were intimidating them, and so into a surrender. So the Nordics have been helping the U.S. Navy. And they launched the Solar Warden program back in 1980, which what's 20 years after 1980, year 2000, which Michael Relf, the first of the secret space program, having total memory recall of his service in space. And then a whole bunch of people followed Tony and many others afterward that are starting to have. And there'll probably be a lot more that hopefully they don't have to do this in the future, where they erase the people's memories. You can imagine if they open up the truth about this whole thing, little people that will be happy to recruit to go and work in space and help, protect our planet from nefarious. I understand there's a barrier up around our solar system, and that they're assisting us right now with building a star fleet to protect the Nibu, which is the Greys, and the Sakar Empire, which is the Draco, that have been, I understand, I don't have direct knowledge, that they have been cleared out of our solar system so that we can get to a point where we can protect ourselves. But right now we have the situation where we need to have a certain critical mass of awakening of a public that's been hoodwinked and lied and deceived for decades in order for our planet to move forward on a positive timeline and release these technologies. I'd love to be able to get back into my 20s,
Well,
with
the yeah.
only if we have the knowledge of what we know now. I don't want to start over unless I know what I know now.
Oh yeah, don't lose our lessons, our life lessons.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would love to see the corrupt medical system. It's so corrupted. My great-grandfather was the president of the Homeopathic Medical Society, but was going up against Rockefeller, who was fighting people who were doing natural remedies and medicines and stuff like that. And the medical system, the CDC brought in all these Nazi scientists and everything, doctors that, the whole system is so, our medical system is so corrupted. It could be so dismantled and healing centers set up so that there's just way too much suffering on this planet that's needless.
Oh, totally. And obviously they want to keep us, keep people sick and medicate them. They don't want them healed and strong and healthy. They want them medicated, and obviously then the money aspect all comes into it, and it's just a matrix of corruption. And haven't we just seen that over the past 2 years with everything that's going on? I mean, the crazy pandemic was just.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's stuff we can't talk about because your YouTube will be taken down. Yeah. And everybody who's even watching this stuff is aware of what they're doing.
Yeah.
With the venom, I guess you would say it. They're discovering what it really is.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen like a fair bit of dispute over that one. I have watched that documentary, and some people are saying it's a psyop, but I guess you're always going to get that, aren't you? But I think for me, it's about having hope and being the hope, that we're the ones that are here to manifest this and to create this reality, this timeline.
Oh, 100% with you. I'm totally optimistic and filled with hope.
Yeah.
And and that's why I'm doing some of these shows with crystals, to seed into into the collective mind with many viewers to imagine a world that is, one that all of us in our heart we desire to see. And we know, because of, if we've done any kind of research, know that's completely attainable and that we can manifest that kind of world here. And so, use the magic in a benevolent way rather than in the dark way, the way they use it.
Exactly. I mean, we speak a lot about that on this show, don't we, Sharnael? That energy is energy. It's how you use it. It's your intention. And if it's used nefariously, it will produce negative results. But we can use these same techniques, these same methods to manifest the light, the good, the benevolent world that we're all here for.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you want to say something, Sharnael?
And that's what we need to do.
I hope you guys can hear me. We're going to have to pop off here, but I'm definitely going to have you back, Dan, on a whole thing with crystals. We got to have you back for sure. And because
we'll have to do one in crystals and do a little exercise of imagination and visualization and intent.
That would be awesome.
Seeded into the collective.
Yes. Well, again, apologize so much for all this tech stuff. And again, we definitely got to have you back when we have a better internet connection over here that won't be so distracting from the powerful information and all the content that you brought here today.
That was superb.
I hope your kitty's okay,
Yes. There's just wasn't my cat, but yes. And love your wife. She's amazing. Talk to her quite a bit on every now and then on the internet, and it seems like we're tracking quite a bit. So how can people contact you, get your information? Do you have a website or anything, or how can we get?
It's not a professional site from the media company. I put it up on thewebmatrix.net. It's just my chronology of notes. It's not a professional site, but just to share all of the timeline events have references to it. And so it's not complete by any means. There's so many more details, but at least it'll help a person get going on seeing, oh my God, this is real.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we thank you so much for your time, and
thank you.
Definitely we'll be in touch about a new date to get you back on. And
my pleasure. We'll do it again.
Most definitely.
Yes. And thank you, Craig, for helping with all this today. I always appreciate and love hosting with you. And thanks everybody who's watching too. And apologies to all of you guys watching for all that stuff, and tech issues are just a thing right now, apparently. But love all of y'all. Go to swiftfire.org, get on the newsletter. Definitely hit the subscribe to and share.
Yeah.
If you're not subscribed, then you won't get any information on the upcoming interviews that we have. And again, we have Tony Rodriguez next week, and I know you guys are going to want to tune in for that. And we have several others coming up on the books that I know you guys are going to be interested in. So love you so much. You guys have an awesome Thursday, and thanks you too. Mm-hmm. I would wave, but I'm holding my phone and I'm holding the microphone, so I have no more hands to wave, so I'll just nod my head with a wave. And you guys are awesome. We'll talk soon.
Thanks, Sean. I'll speak soon.
All right, bye.
Blessings. Thank you.
Is it go?